Good morning, students. Welcome to the class on advanced organic reagents. Today, we will continue our discussion on silicon reagents. We will see Brook rearrangement. What is Brook rearrangement? The rearrangement of silicon to oxygen intramolecularly under basic treatment. When we have alcohol and silicon in the same functional group, probably on the same carbon are alpha to each other or beta to each other, and when we treat it with a base, what will happen? This silicon group will be transferred to the oxygen group. This is TMS group, so TMS will be transferred to oxygen. This is what is called Brook rearrangement. Why it is happening? Under basic conditions, acidic proton and alcohol can be abstracted so that we will generate O minus. Of course, we know oxygen will form stable bond with the silicon. Silicon oxygen bond is the second stable bond that silicon can form. So that means oxygen silicon bond is more stable compared to carbon silicon bond. So oxygen immediately attacks on silicon. It generates this three-membered ring. This three-membered ring. Now silicon gets the negative charge. Now this three-membered ring will break down in such a way that this bond pair of electrons will be transferred towards carbon. During this process, what is happening? Silicon is completely transferred to the oxygen and carbon is gaining a negative charge. Of course, after protonation, this carbon gets proton. So what is happening? When alcohol and silicon are part of the same molecule, if they are on the same carbon or alpha to each other or beta to each other or something like that, if they are in the same molecule, under basic conditions, silicon group will be transferred to oxygen group. So this is what is called a Brook rearrangement. I'll give you one more example for Brook rearrangement. So this is 8-membered ring and we have a 3-membered ring, oxygen and silicon. So when we treat it with a base, what will happen? It will undergo Brook rearrangement. O minus will pick up this silicon. So under basic conditions, what will happen? This oxygen picks up this TMS group. Sorry, there is a correction. 3-membered ring is between these two carbons. Then we are generating a negative charge here. Because 3-membered ring is unstable, this negative charge will be polarized towards 3-membered ring. So we were generating a double bond. Then 3-membered ring will break down to give negative charge on nitrogen. So the final product is here Brook rearrangement coupled with a breaking of 3-membered ring will finally generate this product. This we can also call it as Holmobrook rearrangement. Just because here oxygen and silicon groups are not on the same carbon, they are alpha to each other, so one carbon extra. So that is why we call it as Holmobrook rearrangement. Next, silicon stabilizes negative charge on alpha carbon, positive charge on beta carbon. Silicon stabilizes negative charge on alpha carbon, positive charge on beta carbon. So that means this is stable, negative charge on alpha carbon. Similarly, positive charge on beta carbon. This is also stable. Negative charge on alpha carbon, positive charge on beta carbon. Now we will look at why it is doing so. When we look at the molecular orbitals, we can clearly say why it stabilizes negative charge on alpha carbon, positive charge on beta carbon. This is another carbon. Okay. Now, for example, if I take these lobes like this, if silicon is having bond to another carbon, then the sigma star orbital, of course, we know antibonding orbitals are always empty. Then the sigma star orbital will polarize the electron charge on negatively charged carbon to the empty sigma star orbital. So because of this charge polarization, we can say the negative charge on alpha carbon is stabilized. When we have negative charge on alpha carbon, the negative charge will be polarized towards the empty sigma star orbital so that it gets stabilized. Similarly, when we have positive charge on beta carbon, positive charge on beta carbon, so this is alpha carbon, this is beta carbon, we have positive charge on beta carbon, then what will happen? This sigma orbital, it is always filled orbital. The sigma orbital with its filled electrons now polarizes the bond pair towards the positive charge so that it leads to a stable carbocation. So this is also stabilized. That means when a positive charge is present on a beta carbon, then the sigma orbital in the alpha carbon and the silicon bond, sigma orbital of alpha carbon and silicon bond, it polarizes the electrons towards a positive charge so that it stabilizes the positive charge. So in simple, what we can say, the negative charge on alpha carbon is polarized to the empty orbital of sigma star, then it gets stabilized. Similarly, the positive charge on beta carbon will be stabilized by the charge polarization from the sigma orbital of alpha carbon and silicon. Now, what is the importance of this point? This is a vinyl silane. Now, how vinyl silane will react with the electrophiles and nucleophiles? For example, we will take nucleophile. What do we know? Silicon stabilizes negative charge on alpha carbon. So when we want to add a nucleophile, how we will add? We will shall we add to alpha carbon or beta carbon? Okay, nucleophile adds to beta carbon, so that this double bond will be polarized towards alpha carbon. So it generates a negative charge on alpha carbon. So when we know negative charge on alpha carbon is stabilized, then we can easily add a nucleophile to vinyl silane in such a fashion that it generates a negative charge on alpha carbon. So when we want to generate negative charge on alpha carbon, what we will do, we will polarize this double bond towards alpha carbon. So nucleophile attacks nucleophile easily attacks on beta carbon. Similarly, we can now, if you want to add a electrophile, it is not possible here. Yeah, sorry. If you want to add an electrophile, we will add electrophile onto alpha carbon, so that it generates positive charge on beta carbon. If we want to add an electrophile to this vinyl silane, how do we add? We need to generate positive charge on beta carbon. This is beta carbon. So what we will do? We will polarize this double bond towards alpha carbon. The negative charge, with this negative charge, it can easily attack an electrophile. So what we are going to generate, when an electrophile adds to vinyl silane, we are generating positive charge on beta carbon. So that means when we know negative charge will be stabilized on alpha carbon, positive charge will be stabilized on beta carbon, then we can easily predict the reactivities of silane compounds. Right. For example, when we have allyl silane and when we add a base, what will happen? Right. Of course, we know silicon stabilizes negative charge on alpha carbon. So this base can easily pick up this proton, so that it generates a negative charge on alpha carbon. So that means in allyl silane, allyl proton is acidic in nature. So that can be easily abstracted by a base. So this is how we can determine the reactivity of silicon compounds. Now we will look at the Peterson olefination. What is Peterson olefination? It is the conversion of a carbonyl into a double bond. Generally, this can be done using Wittig rearranging. But when we have a hindered ketone. That means if the ketone is more sterically crowded, then Wittig reagent will not attack on this carbonyl. So in that cases, so when we have a hindered ketone, Peterson wolfenation can be done on that carbonyl. And not only that, we can also prepare terminal and exocyclic double bonds from compounds having silenols. That means alcohol and silicon group. So what will happen here? This reagent, it is alkyl lithium reagent, but it is also having a silicon group. Now this anion will attack on carbonyl, then it will undergo a Brook rearrangement. So that generates OTMS, then that will undergo alkene formation. Right. I'll give the mechanism. How do we generate this Sellyl alkyl lithium reagents or Sellyl Grignard reagents? In a similar fashion, how we generated Grignard reagent, we can also generate this Sellyl alkyl Grignard reagent. So here we are generating this Grignard reagent. That means negative charge on this carbon, positive charge on magnesium. Then when we add a carbonyl, this nucleophile will add to carbonyl carbon. CH2 TMS. Of course, the counter ion is magnesium chloride. Counter ion is magnesium chloride. Then we have negatively charged oxygen, and at the same time we also have a silicon group in the same molecule, so it undergoes Brook rearrangement. It undergoes Brook rearrangement. It generates this four-membered ring system, then this negative charge on sulfur silicon. Now this carbon silicon bond will be polarized towards this carbon, so it generates carbon carbon double bond. Then oxygen carbon bond will break down to give O minus. So the ultimate product is double bond plus O minus. So this is how we can perform a Peterson wolfenation. A negative charge on silicon group. So this nucleophile will act to a carbonyl, then a Brook rearrangement will generate the alkene. So the main important step in Peterson wolfenation is the Brook rearrangement. In that case, we don't need to start with carbonyl. We can have this silinol, that means alcohol and a silicon group in the same molecule. Then when we treat it with a base, it undergoes Peterson wolfenation, or when we treat it with an acid, then also it undergoes Peterson wolfenation. Of course, we have seen basic conditions. I'll briefly discuss about the acidic conditions. Oxygen with its lone pair will easily abstract this acidic proton from acid source. It becomes H2O plus. H2O plus is a good leaving group, so it will be leaving. Then we are generating a positive charge on beta carbon. This is alpha carbon, this is beta carbon. It is stable, so water can easily leave, right? Then what will happen? The whatever it is leaving here will now attack on silicon. So this carbon silicon bonding electrons will be polarized towards this positive charge. So what we are getting? We are getting a double bond here. So this Peterson wolfenation can be performed either in basic conditions or in acidic conditions. What is the importance of Peterson wolfenation? As we have discussed in the introduction itself, Peterson wolfenation is possible with hindered carbonyls also. Of course, we can convert a carbonyl into double bond using Wittig reagent. When we have Wittig reagent, then what is the use of Peterson wolfenation? Look at this example. This carbonyl is highly sterically crowded. One side we have TBS group, other side we have epoxide. So this carbonyl is sterically crowded. When we want to do Wittig reaction here, it is not possible. Okay, because of its sterical crowding, phosphorus iodide cannot approach this carbonyl carbon. In such cases where the carbonyl is sterically crowded and Wittig reaction is not possible, there we can easily perform Peterson wolfenation, because this is a special case where we can do wolfenation of highly hindered ketones. So we can easily convert this carbonyl into alkene. There is no other reaction. Okay, you write the product. Here it is only conversion of this double bond into ketone. I will also give one more such example. If you have a tertiary butyl group, then it is sterically crowded. This carbonyl is having more sterical crowding. If we want, we can have one more group on both sides. This carbonyl is sterically crowded, and if you want to do Wittig reaction, it is not possible on this three. But we can perform Peterson olefination so that we can convert this carbonyl into alkene. So this is where Peterson olefination is uh, much more important than simple Wittig reaction. Now I will discuss other examples. Osmium tetroxide treatment converts this alkene to a cis diol. Here we have substituents on above the crowded. So alpha phase is sterically crowded. Beta phase is sterically crowded. So dihydroxylation occurs on alpha phase. Then when we treat this with an acid, what will happen under acidic conditions? See, we have a hydroxy group and a silicon group and alpha to each other. Then under acidic conditions, it undergoes dehydro dehydration followed by olefination. So a double bond occurs between these two carbons. This protecting this OAC will not be affected under these conditions. Okay, so a double bond will be generated here. When we treat this vinyl silane with ethyl lithium, it generates a negative charge on alpha carbon. Then when it is treated with a carbonyl, this anion will add to carbonyl carbon, so it generates this syn compound. Now when it is treated with an acid, then it undergoes Peterson olefination. It undergoes Peterson olefination. In this reaction, to predict the stereochemistry around this carbonyl addition, we need to use either a Cram's model because it is a simple carbonyl. We can use Cram's model or we can use Felkin-Anne model to predict the major product. I'll give you one more example for Peterson olefination. Here, a Grignard addition in presence of copper iodide will lead to 1,4 addition, right? In presence of copper, Grignard reagent becomes soft in nature, so it undergoes 1,4 addition. So it gives a vinyl group here and a negative charge here. This negative charge, it is alpha to silicon group. So the placement of silicon will also stabilizes this 1,4 addition. So it generates a negative charge on alpha carbon. Then we can add aldehyde. So it undergoes 1,4 addition. When we add an aldehyde here, it undergoes, Peterson wolfenation. So this nucleophile will add to carbonyl carbon. The subsequent transformations will give you Peterson wolfenation. And we have pH here. So the subsequent transformations will give us Peterson wolfenation product. Now, this can be used for a retro-Diels-Alder reaction under thermal conditions. It is a strained ring and we have an alkene here, so it can easily undergo retro-Diels-Alder, a double bond here and a diene here. So it undergoes a retro-Diels-Alder, and we also have we are also using another dienophile. So that dienophile will react with this generated diene. So for simplicity, what I will do, I will write this product. So after retro-Diels-Alder reaction, this is the product. See, this bond and this bond will undergo breakage. So this is diene generated and this is dienophile, and that dienophile, this is the dienophile, this is the diene generated. This diene will undergo a Diels-Alder reaction with this product, with this dienophile. So that means to occur this transformation, we are trapping this diene with this dienophile, so that a backward reaction may not be possible, right? We are doing a retro-Diels-Alder. If both of them are present in the same mixture, then it is also possible to have a backward reaction which again generates this product. So that is why we are trapping this diene generated with another dienophile, so that only retro-Diels-Alder will occur. So with this we have completed Peterson wolfenation.